Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Daryl Stinson here. I wanted to come on here really quickly to talk to you about how to explain what it is that you do for other people. And I also want to talk about just why that's important in general, because it's so important that you learn how to properly articulate the depth of what you do to other people in a way that they can understand it. Because what that does is it, number one, enables them to invest themselves more fully into your process. And then number two, it makes it easier to pass that message along to other people. So think about it like a game of telephone, for instance. If you ever play the game of telephone and one person's whispering a message into the ear of another person through this like cup that has a string, and the funny part of the game is just at some point as you continue to pass on this message, whether you do it with the cup or whether you just pass it along like person to person from the person next to you, is that the message starts to change because it wasn't clear and concise enough oftentimes in the beginning that it made it harder to pass on that clarity as they shared it with other people. And so what you want to think about in explaining what you do is your message that clear? And a lot of times we oftentimes settle for something that just sounds more clear than it is confusing. And we kind of just say, okay, that's good enough. They'll figure it out in the practice of whatever, in the practice of whatever it is you teach, whatever it is you stand behind. But one of the reasons why I like working with TEDx speakers and the importance of that stage is that it's a high stakes talk and that it's not like one of those things where people can just figure it out from here. Like, no, you have up to 18 minutes in some TEDx stages, but usually shorter than that, depending on the event that you work with. You have a set amount of time to be able to display your message on a stage in a way that is potent and powerful and passes on to other people. Okay. And so one of the reasons why that's so difficult is because it's hard to read the label when you're inside the bottle. It's hard to explain what you do when you're just good at doing it. And so for me, one of the things that I knew that I was good at was at the time, I would have said it was pushing through, perseverance, resiliency is a huge buzzword. And prior to to doing my TEDx talk, I was developing the message, figuring out what I wanted to say. I knew that I wanted to be about overcoming rejection of some sort. I wanted to help people to figure out how to move through these painful moments of rejection because I had discovered that in my life, the catalyst for success in every phase that I could go, like, man, like I was doing good, but here's what like catapulted my success. It was when learned how to work through rejection. Okay. And so there was a point in that I would just tell people, like, you should work through your rejection, tell my story about the rejection I've experienced, and then start to share with them, like, kind of a motivational, inspirational type message where it's like, man, you can work through anything no matter what. No matter what you've been through, your pain is a pathway to your purpose, and like kind of just start getting off on that type of like, you know, run off sentences. Let me just inspire and motivate. And would it have made an impact? Yes. Would it have to make a difference in the lives of other people? Of course. Would it have been a great speech? I'm sure it would have been. But would it have been a viral speech? I'm not so sure it would have. Because part of what created the virality was the compounded messaging that was within what I was saying. Okay. And so I could have said that, but I knew that it wasn't as clearly articulated. I knew that I was settling internally for how powerful the message could be. So I sat with it. I researched a bunch of stuff. I kept playing and drawing illustrations, trying to figure out how to make the complex simple. And I came up and finally just realized that, man, what I'm really doing, and what really catapulted the success of my life wasn't that I just had all this like inner resilience to push through and be resilient and persevere. What actually enabled me to push through was that I found a perspective on the rejection that I experienced in my life that empowered me to see myself in a new light and thus move forward from that new self enlightenment. Okay. So I saw rejection that I experienced in my childhood bullying and some of my parental relationship. Like, I saw the rejection I experienced in my social circle, my relationship circle, my spiritual circle as projection from other people. And to be able to put something in a concise statement like that, I said a lot in a little. And one of my mentors taught me that the best speakers make the fewest words go the furthest. So the question for us to all answer is not, do you know what you're doing? I hope that you know what you're doing. It's probably clear that you know what you're doing. You have the transformational results in the lives of other people to prove it. But the question is, can you explain it simply to others? Not just for the sake of having something that's tweetable, but for the sake of having something that's loaded. Okay. One more example that maybe you can relate to. Think of it this way. Um, it has taken you a lot of blood, sweat, tears, reading, trying, failing, getting up, trying again, falling down, getting up, trying again, in order for you to learn what you've learned. Okay. Um, a way to put a gauge on that is that think about who you are today and think about yourself 5 years ago, 10 years ago, the things that you thought were hard. Okay. Things that you thought were hard 5 years ago, 10 years ago are no longer hard for you because of who you have become, because of what you have learned. Okay. That took years. Okay. And when you get to the point where you start speaking on stages of any kind, whether that is a pitch that you're doing, whether that's something like a TEDx talk, whether that's a speaking engagement, whether that is a toast that you make at a wedding, when you get ready to say something, what you're doing is you're pulling from all your life experience and you're figuring out how to articulate what it is that you've been through. So you're compounding 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 30 years, 40 years of wisdom, experience, and lessons in a short, concise, succinct message that you want to pass on to other people. And so it matters how you're able to shape it. It matters what you're able to say because that is what creates the virality. So when you're thinking about leading your movement, when you're thinking about growing the work that you're doing, learn, value the art of making the complex simple because the best speakers make the fewest words go the furthest. And there's a lot to work through in that because all of these things that we've been through, all these things that we've overcome, all the books that we read, all the knowledge that we have in our head, all the things that we've learned in the practice of working with clients or working in community development, all of that has been a lot to work through. Okay, it's been a lot emotionally, it's been a lot spiritually, and it can be triggering sometimes to go through all of those experiences to figure out what is it that I'm actually doing with people. What is it that I'm actually the best at? What is it that actually produces the change in people's life? And how do I articulate it in a way that doesn't take me freaking 30 minutes to explain? Because if I could compound my 20 years of experience, my 15 years of experience, my 5 years of experience into 5-minute videos, 15-minute videos, think about the power that I get to pass on to other people. And think about the telephone game and then passing that on to other people. It's powerful. And if you need an example of this, I mean, think about Dr. Martin Luther King. You know, when he says, hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. When he said that, there was compounding of his life experience that went into that statement. It wasn't just that it was a great quote, it was that it was compacted together from all his life's wisdom, and it's what created the emotional resonance in what he's doing. And so these are the types of things that I encourage you to work through in your work. And if you need some support around that, some expertise around that, I'm happy to support you in that. But make sure that you're valuing your message on that level and that you're doing the hard work to make the complex simple because it's going to multiply the ripple effect of everything that you do. Okay, so I hope you found this helpful. If you feel like you're taking something away, exactly the art of making the complex simple, Gabriel, it is. It's a serious craft to perfect. It definitely is. And it's worth every single effort because the more clear I am, the more convincing that I'll be. The more convincing that I am, the more results that I experience in my life. Right. So let me know if you're watching this as a replay. Just drop a comment in the chat. Let me know what you're taking away. Let me know what's coming up for you. If you found this valuable, feel free to share. all about like putting out great information to help people grow. Let's start to really value our message in a way that we spend time to make the complex simple and make the fewest words go the furthest, because that is how we create more impact, is by creating messages that are better articulated because they're compounded and thought through in that way. All right. Love you all, and here to support you. Take care. Peace.